think we sometimes forget that not everything is a defeat, not everything is a loss, not everything is a problem. I don't know, I think this is the right kind of crowd this morning to maybe identify the best with me. At school, remember bragging about how many stitches you got? No, I wasn't the only one. Maybe it's just a boy thing, but it was like quite sort of the thing to do, you know. Hey, look at me, and I've had 22 stitches in my life. And it's like, whoa, the badge of honor, you know. Wow, you're a flippin' superstar, man. Look at you, you got 9 fingers. So it just struck me as so strange how some things that happen to us, some like really radical events, are kind of seen as like the right thing. And you think about, you're not a real tradesman unless you've got a missing finger, right? All this time I thought you had to get a certificate for that. You know, my grandfather, in 40 some odd years of working in a cabinet shop, the worst thing he ever did to himself was probably a year or 2 before he actually just physically couldn't work in the workshop anymore. He had Parkinson's, and he was struggling with his hips and joints, and he had a stroke on one side of his body. He didn't always want to play the game, and he was holding a piece of wood, and he took the jigsaw and he kind of cut himself. He didn't remove a finger, but I mean he cut himself. So we always had the joke between us that he was the real craftsman because he still had all his fingers, you know. And I didn't get it right because I managed to trim one of mine. But you know, scars are a funny thing, and like I said, sometimes they're a badge of honor, and sometimes they kind of bring a lot of painful memories. You know, I met a gent recently who lost his arm in a motorcycle accident, and I think to myself, wow, I don't know how I would feel less an arm, less a foot. You know, what's more important? What's more significant? What's more specific? You know, is it the little mark on your back where you stood lay down on the grass and then got a nail stuck into you, or is it an operation? Is it a scar on your face that carries more weight or less weight than another? And it kind of struck me that, you know, the guy who I consider a hero in any case, he has 3 really prominent scars on both his heels and both his hands. And they're kind of more a badge of honor than a badge of defeat. Although, from the world's perspective, they look like defeat. So, this morning I wanted to share with you about my good friend Peter, and Petros, the rock, the one who, I suppose like me, seems to find himself in the middle of controversy most of the time, right through the scripture at least. Jesus has been teaching, he's down in Capernaum with the disciples, and he's been teaching them about forgiveness, and he's sort of gone into this long dissertation about how exactly it needs to happen. How do we set up to make recompense? How do we kind of, can I say, put tissue oil on the scar, you know? How do we heal it up so that it's not sensitive and hurtful? How do we make it so that it's not like, and again, maybe the older folks will identify better, but we used to tie a little ribbon on your finger for the youngsters to teach them left from right, and they have to remember that the ribbon was on a certain hand or on a certain finger. So when does the scar not become a permanent reminder of a mistake? When does it become something else? When is making peace and recompense not a long saga, a long kind of drawn out approach? Because Christ says that the scriptures require us to go to the person and go and make peace, and if that doesn't work, you take a witness with you, and if that doesn't work, then you go. So Peter's kind of listening very, very carefully, I think like most disciples should, and he comes along to Jesus when he's sort of stepped away, I would assume one side, or separated himself a little bit, and he says to him, listen, how many times am I supposed to re-forgive somebody? Now he's obviously struggling with something. There's somebody who's perpetually hurting him or disappointing him or frustrating him. There's a scenario in his life, we can only assume, that seems to constantly repeat itself. So he's kind of wrestling with this. Well, how many times more than like the first time do I need to say it's okay? And he sort of throws the number 7 out there, and that's a nice biblical number, right? seems to appear in a few places, and it seems like the right thing. So, 7's a good number. So he says to the Lord, 7 times. Is 7 good? Thought, leave it with you, use it, don't use it. It's funny how every time we want forgiveness, it's got to be given to us very, very quickly. But when we are asked to give forgiveness, it's a bit hard. We feel like, you owe me. And the person who has taken your idea, taken your job, disappointed you on a personal or emotional level, who's kind of torn or cut you or hurt you in some way, who maybe caused the accident in which you got your scar, where you feel like, it's your fault and you owe me. And I'm going to stand here and I'm going to wait until you show up and pay your debt. Any of you also have those little personal conversations? Those little ones where I'm just going to wait for them to say this and then I'm going to say that and I'm going to cut them back properly. Anyone else have that scenario where you play this thing out in your mind and there's normally witnesses, right? And they agree with you. How many times do we feel like, you know what, I'm justified. I did nothing wrong. Or once I was sitting in a life group meeting and I was ranting to the facilitator about someone who had just really been consistent and disappointing me and not kind of doing things perhaps the way I felt I'd like to be treated or done. And I said, people are tiring. You put your hand out and they take it and they smash it for you. You can identify that, right? And he said, well, I know someone who gave his hand and they took his whole body and they tore it up. And that kind of shook me because I was like, wow. Like, Jesus suffered much more of this, not being forgiven thing than I am. And he kind of took a few more stones than I did. So, am I really justified? And then comes the next complaint, is where people say, well, you're a Christian, so you're just not supposed to feel that way. So what do? You stuff the feelings away inside? You just hide them? Prophet Jeremiah talks about covering a wound doesn't cause it to heal, it causes it to fester. So when you take those feelings and you just pack them away and you say, well, they just don't exist anymore, that's all, then they're gone, you end up getting depressed. You end up getting frustrated. You end up thinking, well, what's the point? So when someone comes along and says, oh, you should forgive, you're like, well, you should just not talk to me anymore. Really? It doesn't hurt less. I'm not less disappointed. I'm not less frustrated. And I kind of think that Peter's in this place. Because he's going, well, where do I say, okay, there's the full stop, and here's the new paragraph. I'm not going to tolerate that anymore. I'm now going to respond. But the next time you throw one of those over my fence, I'm throwing 3 back. The next time you make that remark, I'm going to take a chunk off you and you're going to understand exactly how I feel. But the Lord has this wonderful way of sort of going off into a story. And Jesus kind of answers Peter in the strangest way. He almost seems to change the subject in a sense. And as we read in Matthew 18, 21 to 34, he goes, and Peter came to him and asked him, how often should I forgive someone who sins against me? 7 times? You see, Peter, I think like all of us, needed some kind of finite definition. So I'm going to put my hand out, you're going to smack it, I'm going to take it away. You're going to ask me to put my hand out, I'm going to put it out, you're going to smack it again, and then after number 7, I'm going to smack you back. Old Testament, right? Turn your cheek, nothing after that. Okay, now it's my time. And the Lord comes along and I think he kind of blows Peter right out of the water because he says, not 7 times. Jesus replied, but 70 times 7. And then he just completely changes the subject. It's amazing. He says, therefore the kingdom of heaven can be compared to a king who decided to bring in the accounts up to date of the servants who had borrowed money from him. In the process, one of his debtors who was brought to him owed him $1 million. The original talks about denarii, about 1 million denarii. And what's amazing about that is that was an average workman's wage that he would probably earn in his entire lifetime. So it's not the amount of money that could ever be paid back unless you cease to eat, pay rent, live. He couldn't pay his master. So his master ordered that he be sold along with his wife and children and everything he owned. I'm so glad we live in the Republic of South Africa, because they can't do that to us, to pay his debt. So the man fell down before the master and begged, please be patient with me and I'll pay it all. But the master was filled with pity in him and released him and forgave him his debt. That's quite amazing, eh? He kind of just said, you know what? I see your heart. It's okay. We'll let that go. But when the man left the king, he went to a fellow servant who owed him a few thousand. And he grabbed him by the throat and demanded instant payment. Think how many times we say, oh, I'm sorry, man. And whoever you're saying sorry to needs to just step into that space right now. And how many times has someone come to you and me and said, I'm sorry, man. And you kind of want to bless them with a brick. Verse 29. So the fellow servant fell down before him and begged him for a little more time. Be patient with me and I will pay it, he pleaded. And it's something that's possible. It's an amount of money that could be paid. But his creditor wouldn't wait, and he had the man arrested and put him to prison until the debt could be paid in full. I don't know about you, but I think that imprisoning a debtor is kind of counterproductive because they can't earn anymore. Some other servants came and saw this, and they were very upset. And they went to the king and told him about everything that had happened. And then the king called for the man he had forgiven and said, you evil servant, what a tremendous debt. I forgave you a tremendous debt. You pleaded with me. Should you have mercy on your fellow servant, just as I have had mercy on you? Then the angry king sent the man to prison to be tortured until he had paid his entire debt. And it strikes me as interesting that we don't always give what we ask for in return. We don't always make the same amount of space for others that we'd like made for ourselves. And you kind of think, well, I'm justified in the situation. I earned this. And this morning, I was just having a look on some of the social media. I'm interested. Sometimes old Toby Mac comes up with some fascinating statements. And this morning, I just wanted to share, it was led just an interview. It says, you will understand better the love of Jesus when you learn to sit at the table with your Judas. Sometimes I feel like the Lord brings those people that challenge us back into our lives constantly until we learn to deal with it, until we learn to really forgive it, until we learn to kind of let go of it. And I'm a practical kind of person. I believe that you get up in the morning and you do the thing. I don't know what that thing is, but you need to do it. So I want to share with you this morning just some personal research and personal journey that I've managed to work through as I've looked at the subject of forgiving and of letting go and of moving forward and the reward that comes with it. I'm using the acronym SCAR because scars are such a poignant reminder. my life. About 28 years ago, when I trimmed my finger off. At the woodwork shop where I worked, I studied as a cabinet maker, and at that time I referred to it as my BC days. At that time I had a chemical addiction issue, and I was angry. I was angry with the whole world because, as far as I was concerned, everyone had done me in, and it was everyone else's fault. And I wasn't going to have any of it from anyone. I had those internal conversations where I dressed my grandfather down and explained to him exactly how much he was annoying me and how I was tired of this and aggravated with that, frustrated and bored and annoyed. And I was working on a machine called a surfacer. And as I'm working on the machine towards the end of the day, I'm tired, and when you're tired and you suffer from unforgiveness, you get really, really, really agitated. And I decided that as soon as I was finished with this machine, I was going to go and partake of some chemicals to just calm myself down, although it really just aggravates you, it doesn't settle you. And a voice says, in my head says to me, why don't you step outside for 2 minutes? I thought, who are you? What do you want? Get lost, man. I want to get finished so I can go and get stoned. I had enough. I'm sick of everyone. I'm sick of this. I'm sick of the next thing. And I'm aggravated. And the next time I put the piece of wood down to run it across the blades and trim it, I trimmed my fingertip as well. I had 2 choices when I got saved, and one of them was ask the Lord to make it grow back so that I don't have to remember being such an idiot, being angry and being rude. Or I had the choice to go, thank you, Lord, that you just keep me on a little bit of a short leash, because sometimes my attitude's not as good as it could be. Sometimes my mindset's perhaps not as edifying as it might be. So the acronym I want to share with you is SCAR, and I want to start with the word S, with the letter S. Sacrifice. It's such an Old Testament word, eh? It kind of feels archaic sometimes, in our feelings. Sometimes we have to ask for forgiveness. Sometimes our victory lies in saying, it's okay, I'm going to let it go. You know, something struck me is really interesting. The Lord talks about how He floats our sins and He throws them as far as the east is from the west. It doesn't say that He forgets them. It just says that He doesn't hold it against us anymore. And that's hard to do that, because I've got to sacrifice myself. I've got to sacrifice me and I. So I'm going to accept that, and I'm going to walk on from that. Sometimes none of it is me, but that's okay. I'm going to accept that, and I'm going to walk away from that. Because the sacrifice of forgiveness, for the sake of victory, I think it's worth it. Second letter is C, and that's choose. Forgiveness is a choice, guys. And yes, sometimes you have to choose it every hour. Sometimes you have to choose it again after 6 months. When this was still a very fresh wound, it's the most amazing thing, and I think you'll all agree. You can have a little wound on your elbow. It's like slightly tender, right? And that's when you discover how much your elbow touches everything. This little bit that's tucked away inside behind all these other fingers, I tell you what, it found its way to the front of the cube every time. And every time that memory, oh look at you, you idiot, look what you did. You had a temper tantrum and then you flipped, you know, what's the matter with you? See, the enemy comes to lie, steal, kill and destroy. God doesn't. So you kind of got to just pick it up and throw it away again, and then start that journey from the east to the west, right? And then accept. And this is the one that I struggle with. Because sometimes we have to accept the fact that forgiveness is actually for you, not for the person you're forgiving. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is let go. Because you're the one walking around with it. One of my favorite sayings, Pastor Brian shared with us last week, bitterness. Bitterness is, I drink the poison and I wait for you to die. Maybe it's time to just pour the poison out on the ground and walk away. Make a choice. Accept it. And then repeat. Or is that repent? I always get the two confused, right? You know, the word repent literally means to turn 180 degrees. It metaphorically and literally says, go in another direction. Make another choice. Be willing to sacrifice yourself. And 9 times out of 10, it's not for others, but yourself. Can I pray for us this morning? Lord, your word says in Matthew 18:35 that you will not forgive us unless we forgive others from our hearts. And sometimes we need to remember to forget so that we can forgive others and ourselves. So now while every eye is closed and every head is bowed, I want to challenge you. Is there something you're cross about at the moment? Is there something that's keeping you up at night, disturbing you and frustrating you? Is there someone that every time you see them, there's this thing that wells up inside you that wants to do the wrong thing for the right reason? I want to challenge you this morning that if it's you, I want you to hold your fist out in front of you. Just hold your fist out in front of you. And for a moment, I want to ask you to put that person, that thing, that situation, that place, that scar. I want you to put that in your hand. And I want to encourage you with this, that sometimes it's yourself that you need to put there. And now I want you to open your hand and let it fall out. Heavenly Father, for every single person who's opened their hand and let that thing fall out, I ask, Lord Jesus, that you would just give your unique anesthetic, your unique medicine, that would just remind them that they've left it here today, and that you have thrown it away, that you don't hold it against them, and they don't hold it against whoever it was, or whatever it was, or wherever it was. And that scar, whether it's on our skins or on our hearts, will just become a badge of honor for you, Lord. Oh, in Jesus' precious name. Amen. Well, church, I want you to know that I love you with the love of the Lord. And I trust that you've been challenged and inspired as I've been. And if you need prayer or you'd like to talk, please come forward. All the best for your day ahead. Blessings.